The policy is good because they want to protect domestic industry, which every country does. If you look at the United States, that's why the president is putting up this tariff. He's trying to protect domestic industry and also attract people to come to America to come and establish their company. Because if you produce in America, no tariff for you. If you produce outside America and you want to come and sell in America, you pay tariff. So remember, in America, they have Ford, they have GMC, they have Chevrolet and the rest. So, but in Nigeria, when you look at what we have, I know we have Innocent, we have Nord. I know there are some new other ones that came up also. So, but the question is, so will they be able to meet the vehicle need of the citizens? So, because when you phase out these used cars, right, and the domestic production cannot match that quantity you have phased out already that they normally import, there will be shortages. And very simple economies, the lower the supply and the higher the demand, it means the price will go up. When we are doing this auto policy stuff, so we should look at our peculiar environment, not just copying what they do abroad. Think about the citizens, how the policy will affect the lives of the citizens, whether positively or negatively. Think about the consequences that follows it. Think about, so many challenges that we pose when this policy comes on board, and then strategize how to deal with those challenges. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is Andy Media TV. Well, a few days ago, we heard that the federal government is trying to, stop the importation of used vehicles, by third quarter of 2026. And this idea is quite something that is, good because it will encourage local production of cars. But where we have concern, personally, where I have concern as a citizen is we don't understand yet the strategy the government is intending to pull this off because majorly in Nigeria, a greater percentage of the country, let's say at least between 70 to 80% of Nigerians drive used vehicles. That is the honest truth. The people that always buy brand new vehicles are normally government, private businesses like big companies and corporations, and then some few, wealthy, individuals who buy brand new vehicles because they can afford it. But majority of Nigerians cannot be able to afford brand new vehicles in relation to their income that they earn at the end of the year. So they cannot be able to afford brand new vehicles. So they depend on these fairly used vehicles that are imported from other countries of the world. And that is one of the issues that I'm having with the policy. So the policy is quite good, trying to encourage local production and local manufacturing of vehicles, but the government need to sit down and review their intentions and ensure that the way they will implement this policy will not affect the lives of the citizens, so that there should be like a phased approach, and there will be like a targeted kind of vehicles that the government will focus on trying to stop the importation in the country. I will explain all of this as I go further in this video. However, if you are new to my channel, please kindly like and share this video, and also subscribe to my channel and press on the notification bell so that when my next new video drop, you'll be among those that will be notified. All right. Okay, so let's look into how we got here in the first place. Well, it's on notice that the Federal Executive Council approved the National Industry Policy. So as far as FEC approves it, it means it's approved, because Federal Executive Council is the highest decision body in the executive. That's where you have the president, the ministers, the cabinet ministers, and other strategic officers like the secretary to the government of the federation and the rest of them. So that is where decisions are made. So the moment decisions are made there, signed and approved, that means it is done. So this industrial policy is already approved by Federal Executive Council. But during the 18th edition of the International Journalists Award, held by the Nigerian Automobile Journalists Association, NAJA, the Director General of the National Automobile Design and Development Council, made it clear that by first quarter of 2026, that Nigeria will begin to phase out used vehicle being imported into the country. However, what I think that needed to be done in this direction is, if you are to phase out used vehicle, I think there should be a targeted year, for example. So you can do the phase out by saying that all vehicles produced between 2013 and below are banned from importation into the country by a so period of 2026. They said first quarter, which is end of March, so maybe by April it may start. I don't know, but that's the way to do it, so that anybody that is importing vehicle from now on, we start looking at from 2014 upwards. I'm just giving an example here. But when you say phase out used vehicles, nobody knows what that means. It's blanket. It's too wide and open. So when you say used vehicle, does it mean all year till even the current year that we're about to enter in 2026? So it's better to be more specific in terms of mentioning which year that nobody is expected to import into the country. Like I mentioned, you can say all vehicle below 2012. All right. Any vehicle from 2012 below is not expected to be imported into the country. Then it means anybody importing vehicles will be importing not from 2013 upwards. That's what it is. So maybe after some year, they can now increase it from 2012. They can make it to 2014. So anybody importing will import from 2015. So gradually like that. Okay. So, and you know that with this new government coming in 2023, taking off subsidy, taking off all the subsidies both in electricity, in petroleum products, and in forest, that many things, the prices have skyrocketed, coupled with inflation in the country. So the prices, the cars you used to buy 1.5 million today is sold at 8 million. So when you look at the jump, it's quite huge. And don't forget that people's minimum wage is still, below 100K. The other time it was 70,000, in as much as some, government and, other organization, set their own, but not below the government approved threshold. So what I'm saying here is that if this policy kicks off, it means that many Nigerians will not have access to vehicles. They will not have access to buy vehicle because they cannot just afford it. And in Nigeria, we don't have this auto finance policy. That is the problem. Compared to what we have in developed countries. In the US, anybody can buy any car of his choice because they are financed. You are not paying from your pocket. You are paying through a finance, company, maybe through bank or other, financial institution who funds those kind of operation, and then you pay back the sum on monthly basis with interest. So many people do that. They get brand new car for $5,000, $25,000, and $5,000, and they pay it off for a couple of years, maybe 3 years. In fact, some cars now, like electric vehicles, the repayment plan service up to six years. There are some services 9 years. Yes, people get into that, get the car of their choice, and they pay over time. But in Nigeria, that we know, anything you are buying, you are paying cash. You are paying full. You are not like, okay, pay gradual. It's rare for you to see a car dealership who will give you a car and you are paying small, except you're a well-known personality like celebrities and stuff like that. But ordinary Nigeria that have no name cannot have access to that kind of arrangement, and that is the truth. So, and there are a lot of reasons behind all those things, People identity are not known. So many people they live here today, they live in another place tomorrow. Nobody knows where they are. They cannot be tracked. There's no background check to know the his financial history of the person, to know whether the person is a fraudster or have committed crime. All those kind of things are very difficult to prove back there. But abroad they have the credit system. People have access to credit, right? Unlike in Nigeria, even if there's a bank that will finance that, the interest rate we pay will be close to 20-something%. But in abroad, most of them pay even 1.9% interest, some pay 3%, depending. But it cannot be more than 5% to buy a car, and nobody will even buy a car that has 5% interest. Majority of people is 1.9%, less than 2%, or less than 3%. So in Nigeria, if you have to finance this thing, what's the interest rate the person is supposed to pay on that? That is the question. So it becomes difficult that citizens cannot even afford fairly used cars it is today, not to talk of when it is phased that. So you are now asking the citizens to purchase brand new vehicle, which they don't even have capacity. Somebody that is earning minimum wage of 70,000 or 75,000, as the case, even if it's 100,000, and the person is earning 100,000 naira per month, multiply it by 12, it's just 1.2 million. How much is car? Even fairly used car now, you can't even see anyone that you can buy at 1.5 million, except somebody has finished using it and just want to dash you and say, okay, just pay something. Because if you go to car stand, a car of 1.5 million few years before 2023 is now 8 million, 8.5 million, some even 10 million. That is the honest truth. So it's difficult, this kind of policies. That is why you need to sit down, rethink it, set your strategies and the system on how you will implement it so that the heat will not be too much on Nigeria. Don't forget that the new tax law is kicking off in January 2026. Phasing out used cars is supposed to start first quarter, and at the end of first quarter, which is maybe from April, December 2026. So when you look at all these things, policies government additional for 2026 only, you will see that the economy will bite harder for the people, and people will face a lot of hardship, as the case may be. The point is, those guys who are importing these vehicles, What are they going to do? Let's assume that somebody's car is still coming in, and maybe the government is to phase out 2012 below, for example, and somebody has already imported a car, and the car will be coming in after the policy has kickstarted. What happens to such people? So, do the government have a way of addressing that? Let the person, sell off the car, or government buy the car off from them, or whatever it may be, so that the person will not incur loss because he has imported the vehicle prior to the announcement of this policy. So all these things are part of the issues that government have to also consider when the time comes. Again, the another question is, the policy is good because they want to protect domestic industry, which every country does. If you look at the United States, that's why the president is putting up this tariff. He's trying to protect domestic industry and also attract people to come to America to come and establish their company. Because if you produce in America, no tariff for you. If you produce outside America and you want to come and sell in America, you pay tariff. So based on that, he has drawn in up to $18 trillion worth of investment. People who are coming in to build AI facility, who are coming, even car, manufacturing companies. So remember, in America, they have Ford, they have GMC, they have Chevrolet and the rest. So, but in Nigeria, when you look at what we have, I know we have Innocent, we have Nord. I know there are some new other ones that came up also. So, but the question is, with those few that we have, not necessarily manufacturing, but I know most of them do assembling. So, will they be able to meet the need, the vehicle need of the citizens? That is another big question, because when you phase out these used cars, right, and the domestic production cannot match that quantity you have phased out already that they normally import, there will be shortages. And very simple economics, the lower the supply and the higher the demand, it means the price will go up. So if people who can't afford 8.5 million used vehicle, for example, is it when you now phase it out that they can be able to afford a car? No, it means it will be out of their reach. And transportation costs will increase because most of these vehicles, people buy them, use them to do Uber, use them to do taxis, and airport taxis and stuff like that. So when those vehicles are phased out, those kind of people who normally buy those vehicles to use it for transportation, they will be out of job. That's what it is. So I understand that according to the policy by the DG, they said that the essence of it is to phase out unworthy vehicles, vehicles that are not roadworthy. They will be phased out. Importation of substandard vehicles, I don't know which vehicles are substandard. Used car doesn't mean it's not substandard. It's just that somebody bought it, used it, and sell it off. That's what it is. Some may have accident, people fix it back and use it, and so on. So there are people that don't like scratches on their car. Once there are scratches, they sell it off. There are people that once they have one accident, the trauma of that accident, so they don't like to use the car because it reminds them of that accident. So they sell it off and stuff like that. So people buy it, fix it back, and use it. So these are part of the used car. So I don't know when they say substandard. I don't know. There's no country that does substandard vehicle because it must go through quality control. Without quality control, that car will not be approved to move. And that is why you see some of them that beat the quality control test. At times you hear that a certain company is recalling certain vehicle produced on certain years because of some malfunctions. It means that one, you might not only escape quality control test. So, but you will see the company recall the vehicle because they don't want to attract lawsuits. When somebody uses it and dies in an accident because of the failure of the vehicle, the company will be sued and they will pay millions of dollars. So that's why you see them recall those vehicles, at some certain intervals when something new is discovered concerning the vehicle. So the issue government talking about substandard vehicle will be phased out. I don't know what they mean by that anyways. So I recall that if you listen to Mr. Peter Obi when he was governor of Anambra State and his working relationship with innocent vehicles, he said that time that I think he said he made a deposit of about how many billion? I think 2 billion or thereabout. And they gave him time for them to do the production and ship to him. So now Nigerians want to walk into the car stand, buy a car and go, right? So if we are depending on innocent, depending on Nord and the other, car assembly, plants, will they be able to be producing these vehicles that will be everywhere across Nigeria that citizens can go and buy? That is the question. Can they meet the supply need of the quantity of vehicle Nigeria need on annual basis? I remember government, most of the time government buy all these vehicles from Innocent at that time. What they do, they pay, they make requests for the vehicles, like buses, staff buses there. And it takes them a long period of time to produce, and they ship in batches. When they produce on quantity, they send to the government. When they produce, they send to the government. So, but in a steady market like Nigeria, where everything is done by full payment, I don't know how that's gonna work. If somebody that just saved money for a car goes to Innocent to buy, and they are saying they don't have the one that is available now, that will take 3 months. Will that person be able to wait for 3 months to be able to get delivery? So these are the things that need to be put into perspective. Ensure that the assembly plants that we have can be able to meet the supply need. And that is the reason when you have done your survey, with these companies and see their capacity, what they can produce, the level, the kind of vehicle they produce, and the affordability of those vehicles, then you begin to know how to strategize in implementing the policy. That is my point here. Not just coming out to roll it out and then everybody will start, running, helter-skelter and things gets worse instead of getting better. That is the point. Again, remember that based on the purchasing power of the people, they have poor purchasing power because of low income that people earn. Are government ready when civil servants begin to demand increase in their minimum wage, increase in their pay, because they can't afford car, they can't even afford rent, they can't afford anything based on the minimum wage that the government is paying as we speak? Will government be ready to listen to them to change the minimum wage because of the economic realities? Yeah, we know by law when minimum wage is signed, it takes a certain number of years before it will be reviewed. But the reality of life is not showing that they can wait till the time is supposed to be reviewed. Otherwise, corruption will be on the increase because people must find a way to get that money, no matter what it takes. So that is what it is. So government should also be prepared to face the pressure that will come from workers, NLC going on strike and stuff like that. That will be there. So let them have that at the back of their mind. Again, this same issue will bring about more hardship to the people, because those people that were able to, prices of cars mostly are tied to the year, right? Anyone buying a car of 2025 will pay more compared to somebody buying a car of 2013. So because of the latest technology in the vehicles and stuff like that. So if they phase out certain number of years, right? Like I'm using the example of phase out 2012 below. So what will government do to accommodate those people who cannot afford 2013 upwards, that uses it for transportation, for Uber, airport taxis, and what have you? How will government accommodate those people? We then now provide these vehicles for them to, get it at higher purchase. Will government roll out a program, to target those groups so that government will make the vehicle available for them? They buy the vehicle on higher purchase. As they do their taxes and all that, they pay back until they offset the car price. They can now own the car. That is kind of program that government can do to accommodate those people who uses it for transportation and stuff like that. And also, you will know that there will be smuggling. Smuggling will be there. So even as we speak, they are smuggling cars from Cotonou to Nigeria, right? Because of the high cost of clearing vehicles on the port. So when this policy comes in, they will still be bringing in those vehicles, but they will land in Cotonou, and from Cotonou they will smuggle it in, settle customs and all this, and the car will come in. That's what it is. And they will still register that car, trust me, because we have corrupt people in every system. The car registration people, they still collect bribe and register those vehicles. So these are the issues. How will they, curb smuggling into the country? Because as we speak today, they smuggle rice, they smuggle cars, they smuggle everything, even guns into the country. I've seen videos of custom, nabbing some, gun suppliers and things like that. So all these things, they come into the country. And there are people that run this show. Many people that run this show, they know themselves. They import all these contraband, product. So how will government curb smuggling of these vehicles when it is scrapped? Again, what is the incentive government will give to these local manufacturers or local car assembly plants to upscale their production? So it's not about dishing out policy and telling people this car from this year will no more be allowed into the country and that's it. No, because there will be supply problem. What incentive is government planning? How much venture capital have they set aside to support this car manufacturing plant so that they can upscale their production, increase their labor, upscale production so that they can meet the need of Nigerians? These are a very big question. So government need to look into that, because a company, let's say Nothing, for example, producing 1 million cars per year, and you phase out the alternative people are using to augment themselves. When you now phase it out, those people who are buying used cars need to move to buying new cars now from Innocent and the rest of them, right? So how can Innocent, for example, upscale his production from 1 million to 2 million or 1.5 or 3 million? He cannot, because the resources to do that is not there. He need new manpower, he need new machines and more technology and all those things. So they are not there, and he doesn't have that fund to process that immediately. That's where government comes in to provide subsidy or grant or whichever thing they need to provide, or capital on a low interest rate for them to borrow and upscale their production. And all these things supposed to have been happening prior to the phasing out of these used cars. Not when you are phased it, that's when you will now start planning. No, because people need vehicles and they can't afford new one. Any new vehicle in Nigeria now is millions of naira, which many people cannot afford. Again, can government be able to talk to banks to them to set aside, car loan to people and spread it for them over time, maybe 2 years, 3 years for them to pay off, and with a very low interest rate? That is another thing. Otherwise, there is no individual except the rich that will go and buy brand new vehicle and pay it off immediately. Nobody, except the rich. So for average Nigerians, working class America, there's not even medium income again. It's low income Nigeria. They cannot afford new cars. That is the honest truth. So these are the things government need to look into as they are planning the implementation of this policy. Because if they don't put all these things into picture and find ways to address them, they're going to be a serious problem when the time comes. So I've mentioned some certain things here that workers will demand for, high wage, that workers, cannot be able to afford brand new cars. That's why they resort to used cars because it's fairly cheaper, and also it's even durable because the quality is very high and that when it will produce. So I've mentioned there will be smuggling. That one is for sure. And I've mentioned that there will be hardship for the people because someone that wanted to buy a car to shuttle to his job, take his family, home and stuff like that, cannot be able to do that. So it become very expensive for the person. There will be high cost of transportation because there will be few vehicles. All those mall you see in Lagos that are the bodies are already ricketted, some tires, all those vehicles will be phased out of the road. So while you phase them out, what is the plan to replace those vehicles, those buses, so that there won't be shortage of buses that will trigger high cost of transportation, so that there won't be low quantity of vehicle on the road that will make people to be frustrated, waiting for hours to get vehicle to go home or fight at the bus stop to get. So the government need to think about all these problems that will erupt and be able to nip them in the bud before launching this policy they are intending to do. Like I always said, I'm just trying to open the eyes of government to think widely, especially from the citizen's perspective, not just policy, but think about the impact on the citizen, weigh the pros and the cons. It's a good policy to increase local production, but the impact, the negative impacts, is where government comes in to see how they can ameliorate the situation so that the implementation will not hit hard on the people, especially that the new tax law is also coming in on board the same year, plus other policies that may even come up, which we don't know yet. So these are the things that, because anything government is doing, whether policy, whether law, whether program, if it's not targeted at improving the lives of the people, it's a waste. Because that is the job of the government. Protect life and property and ensure that they serve the welfare of the citizen, make their life better. That is the paramount job of the government. So if you are bringing phasing out used cars and is to hinder or affect negatively the lives of the people, then it's not a good policy to me. Because what is the essence? You do local production and nobody can buy it except government and rich people. Then what's the point? How many people are rich in Nigeria? What's the percentage of rich people in Nigeria? Wealthy people that can afford those cars? They are less than 5%. So the remaining 95% cannot afford it, which means the policy is not fair. So these are the way to measure some of these things we are talking about. So the government, what are they doing? They are spending taxpayers' money. That's why they can afford it, to buy it for official use and stuff like that. So it's very, very critical for government to review their policies, look at the impact on the people. If it's affecting them negatively, then they have to rejig that policy. It must change the life of the people. That is the idea. Then I think the DG, was also mentioning about end of life charge, that when you buy a car and you are going to register it, there's a certain amount of money you are supposed to pay, so that when you are finished using the car is old and cannot serve any purpose again. That fee will be used to recycle the vehicle. Well, I don't know about that because I checked in the US, there's nothing like end of life fee. The money you are paying to register the car is for road maintenance. That road will drive the car upon. It's part of the charge that they are charging you when you are registering the car. And your gas, gas tax, you buy gas, there's a certain percentage they take, to be able to maintain the roads and stuff like that. So, but end of life, they don't pay that in America. So I don't know where the DG got that idea from. You can, if I buy a car now, maybe I bought a nursing vehicle and I use it for 3 years and decided I don't want the car again. And when I bought it and I was registering it, I've paid for the end of life of the vehicle according to the DG. Now I sold the car at the 3rd year I've used it. I sold it after 3 years. Somebody has bought it. So it's no more my vehicle. Will they refund me the end of year life fee I've paid? Because the new owner is supposed to be responsible for that, not me again. So you can see the complication in all these things. So I don't think that works, because nobody drives one car till he dies. It's difficult. Only few people does that. Who doesn't, aspire to, do something new, get some car. Some people even love their car. They can afford another one, but they love that particular car, so they will drive it till he dies. So when you are charging people to pay end of life car fee for a car when they are doing registration, and the person after a few years of using the car sold the car to someone else, so who is responsible for the end of year life now? Are you going to refund the initial buyer, the person that bought the car in the first place? That is a big question that you guys need to answer. And if the second person who bought the car from the first owner now use it for 3 years and also sell it to someone else, so that is the third party now. There's a third person who is buying the same vehicle. So who is the government going to hold for the end of life car? So you can see, when you are doing policy, don't do policy that is complicated, because this end of year life thing is a very complicated issue. That is the point. So I think that fee they are intending to charge, because they already estimated how many billion they will rake in. Because that's where they are good at, thinking about money they will make. They don't care about the impact on the people. That is the problem. And it's not that when they rake in all this money, they use it to change the life of the people. The same money will be reluted. That is the point. So it's worrisome hearing that kind of end of life. It's not done in US. They don't pay that in the United States. That is the issue. So where did they copy that from? That's a big question. So if you are trying to implement that kind of policy, please think it carefully. Who is responsible? Because when you sell your car, you transfer ownership. You are no more the owner. So they can't hold your end of life, payment. So let's not create more chaos in a already chaotic, environment. So the phasing out of the used cars by end of first quarter 2026 that government is looking at, I don't know, but I think it's going to be something that will create a lot of chaos, in the system, because they are looking at people having high quality vehicles when the whole bunch of the population is poor, living below poverty line. Are they the people that will be buying high quality vehicle? And there's no vehicle that is low quality or high quality. The only difference is that older cars are meant, to have been phased out because of there are new technologies now. So some certain things in that vehicle is not meeting the current, environment or current, trend in vehicle production. So there are always new technologies and all that coming up on every year cars. So the point is that people should be allowed to own vehicles. If you are phasing out used cars, go down to the older years and phase them out, the older years and phase them out. So that is what I would think that the government need to do. Allow alternatives. In America, the previous administration under Biden talked about electric vehicle, that they will phase out, gas cars by 2030. And they were like, encouraging people to buy EVs, electric vehicles. They even provided a subsidy of about $7,500 for those who are buying electric vehicles. So, and they said they will build, charging, plants around the country. And then, but when President Trump came in, he decided that people have right to buy whichever car they want. Whether you want electric vehicle, you go and buy. If you want gasoline vehicle that we call petrol vehicle in our place, you go and buy. And that's okay. And people were happy, because many people don't like the EVs because, one, is very expensive to buy. Two, changing the battery when it dies is costly. Three, the tires, wears off, faster than you think, and so on and so forth. And they even pay, charges just like the gasoline pay car tax. Those ones pay that fee that is labeled on every EVs. You pay when you are registering the vehicle and all that. So when you look at all those things, people can make choices of what they want and what they can afford. That is the truth. And it works that way. And it took off the subsidy that the previous administration provided for the EVs. So now you want EV, you go and buy. You want gasoline, you go and buy. So it makes life easier for people, because most of the vehicles here, the Ford, the Chevrolet, the GMC, most of the cars they make are, gasoline cars, because EVs are something new. It's Tesla and the rest of them that are, known for that. So, but basically, when we are doing this auto policy stuff, so we should look at our peculiar environment, not just copying what they do abroad. Look at our peculiar environment. Think about the citizens, how the policy will affect the lives of the citizens, whether positively or negatively. Check the pros and the cons. Think about the consequences that follows it. Think about, so many challenges that we pose when this policy comes on board, and then strategize how to deal with those challenges and all that. Is very, very important. Don't just roll policy for rolling's sake. Yes, it's good to protect our local industry. Every country does that. And I encourage that our car assembly plants be protected. Then government map out incentive to give to them to scale up production before even the implementation of this policy, because there will be high demand. There are people that can afford the cars, and then provide alternative ways people can fund the procurement of vehicles through car loan. All right, finance companies who can come in with low interest rates so that people can buy these cars. That's what they do abroad, and pay over time with low interest rate. Not this your 27 interest rate that banks give. No, nobody can buy a car like that. Nobody can do that. So if they are giving 1.9% in America, 2%, 3%, and all that, then Nigeria should be able to do better to get it down so that people can afford it and pay over time, to the banks or to financial institutions that, that provide all this kind of support. So that is my own 2 cents concerning this whole thing. Is the policy good? It is good to protect, domestic industries. It's good. That's simple economies. But how you do it matters a lot. All right. So, guys, I don't know what you think concerning this whole thing. Let me know what you think concerning this and put your comment down in the comment section. And then we'll continue to talk about that. We all want what is good for the country, but we think more on how it benefits the people. That is the most important part of it. So government is there to serve the people, not themselves. So this mentality of thinking about what government can make when they bring out one policy without thinking of the repercussion to the people or the economy, that's another thing altogether. So guys, I'm gonna leave it here, and then watch out to hear from you from the comment section. And then if you are new to my channel, please like and share this video, and also subscribe to my channel and press the notification bell so that when my next new video drop, you'll be among those that will be notified. I will see you in my next video, and thank you for watching. See ya. I'm signing out.